Hello, this is Andrea from Pesado, and today we're talking about coffee tampers. The coffee tamper is actually the first product that we developed with the Pesado brand. So this is where Pesado actually started. So it's a very simple item. It's a very kind of like basic tool that you find in every environment. But there's a couple of tricks and a couple of features that kind of give us the idea to start a brand around this. So in my previous work experience, we did have a lot of tampers. We're always selling a lot of tampers. And there's always been a lot on the market, especially because tamper is a fairly easy tool to make. This is usually made on a machine that just spins, and then it can cut fairly easily, like a 3D machine, a 3-axle machine would be able to produce a tamper fairly easily, fairly cheaply. So there's a lot of options on the market. There's millions of price range. You can spend from like $1,000 down to probably $2. So why did we approach such a crowded market? Why did we start our brand with this kind of tool is the question. And to give a little bit of an history, obviously there was a lot out there. We were selling a lot of tampers where I was previously working, but there's always a little bit of a lack of creativity in what was out there. I mean, there was definitely very nice looking tampers. There's definitely are some very, very pretty pieces out there, but there was also very hefty price tag from those pieces, So what we were trying to do was trying to bring something absolutely special, but with a price that was, approachable and affordable, and doable, So it was always like a bit of a balance to get something that looked good and it didn't really have to be a super expensive exercise. So the way we started at the time was to making a stainless steel base with the laser etch logo and the hand-shaped wooden handle on it. So that was the beginning of our operations. As well as we had an aluminum option for the tamper. So there was a wooden option and an aluminum option. And we actually launched this at an exhibition back in Melbourne. It was a while ago, I can't quite recall the year, but I do remember very clearly selling out completely of all the tampers we made, so I was pretty stoked at the time. And from then on, there's always been a constant demand for our tamper, So I'm gonna just go through a few of the features of the tamper, and hopefully this will be helpful in your next choice, you know what I mean? But we start with the basic one, which this is our white silver. So white POM, or you can also call it acetal. This is an engineering plastic that is used to make cogs and mechanical parts. It's very durable. And then we've done a stainless steel ring with a stainless steel top and a stainless steel base. The base is made out of 316 stainless steel, which is the highest grade of stainless steel. The 316 is harder and it's got a little bit of a less static than steel, but it's mostly just harder and just a more higher grade of steel. And the way we've designed this back in the day, and this hasn't changed since, so we're still doing exactly the same shape as we did about 10, 12, 13 years ago, I'm not even quite sure how long that was to make a base that was actually 58.5 or just shy of 58.5 millimeter wide, so that it would fully cover all the surface of the basket area. And another very crucial feature that was not quite available out there was having a very sharp edge. So why would you want a very sharp edge? Why would you want a full cover of the surface area? To the point that sometimes this tamper could even suck the pack back, if you're not careful. Why do we want it to be so wide? We want it to be so wide because covering the full amount of surface area is actually the first step to getting an even extraction. If you leave the surroundings of the basket untamed, well, that's where your channeling is going to start straight away. And believe it or not, the outer edge of the circle has got the biggest amount of area because obviously the radius is on the outside, So if you've got a chamfer or, something that is not quite the same amount of area as the basket, you're actually leaving out quite a large, substantial amount of surface area that doesn't get tamped. So this is why we did this. This is why our tamper is sharp. And we did this, which is pretty much still to this day, the only one with the 3 kind of corners. Rather than having just one corner or some sort of radius, we just did a sharp edge there and another edge there. Why did we do that? We allowed just a small amount of millimeters of tamping, and then we scallop that to allow air to go back when you're pulling, so that you don't pull the pack back out. If we had made that very thick, that could have changed the amount of air that goes back behind the tamper, so it could have caused a suction. So we cut that off just to have less chances of having suctioning back to the pack. The first one we made was wooden, okay? And the first wood we used was actually Zebrano and Wenge, which are some amazing exotic woods, and that's how we started back 13 years ago. It turned out that was a bit of a mistake, because looking into it, the wood we were using was actually endangered. So that kind of shifted the whole production and changed everything that Pesado was about, because we actually about sustainability as much as we can. When we make something, we want it to last as long as possible. We definitely want to stay away from anything that is not easy accessible in this planet. So, I mean, Zebrano and Wenge looked amazing. They are amazing, but they're endangered species, and I decided not to touch them anymore and never put my hand on those kind of wooden products again. So we have gone, as I explained in other videos, we've made a Raya, which is now our only full wooden option, which is a birch. Is a super easy to grow. It's a plant that is super easy to grow. Dyed, different colors, so we can make different wooden options. We got the Iris, which is multicolor. We got the Riga, which is 3-color, and we got the Raya, which is 2-color, which I personally really like. Obviously, with the tamper, you know, the tamper, once the tamper comes in your coffee setup, what's next? You know what I mean? Like, what's usually people try to marry a tamper to, not everybody, but most people marry the tamper to the portafilter. So we obviously, once we had a range of tampers, then we've created a range of portafilters to go with it, you know what I mean? To match whatever we were doing. So once you put it in the coffee machine, next to the coffee machine there's a tamper. Usually we like to push to also have the same look on the handle. The bottom line for me is that this is a coffee tamper. Yes, this goes on your bench. Yes, but this is also a piece that you put there, and you know, yes, it can be done for $2. And it's gonna be fine, and you're probably gonna make a good coffee out. But it's actually a little bit of it's a piece, it's a statement, it's something that you put next to your machine, it's something that you touch every day, it's something that you use every day. And so it does, in my opinion, require attention to detail, and it's gotta be made well, and it's gotta look good. Because if it doesn't, you know, you gotta like it, in my opinion, otherwise, to be honest with you, I can't use it. You know what I mean? So this is why we made so many options, because we've got a white silver that could work really well in a kitchen where it's super modern, super concrete, and then we got something like, you know, a black bronze, which would be something with darker tones, some other kitchen that, you know what I mean, it's got more European features. We got this one, which is the Riga, which again, you know, would work well into another environment, and each machine has got its own features that you can try and match, or you can try and contrast, you know. So we also made, obviously, just recently actually, we made a full black base. We actually made a full black base before, and we were saving this for cooperations. So I've been doing this for a while, but we actually never really sold it ourselves, never put it on the market directly, because we wanted to allow this idea to start cooperations around the world, which has been pretty successful, because we've done this for a few brands and for a few partners. You know, I mean, an example is this one here that we did with my good friend from Reverence Coffee in Melbourne. He's been selling this for ages, and he's talked with them. I also done some of this for my good friend in Japan, Shin from Espresso Lab. He's got them with his logo. I've done this for Ona Coffee as well. A crazy matching color, you know, which is a black. Black is a very cold steel, perfect piece to go wherever you want to really make a statement of, like, you know, dark coffee machine. Yeah, so looking at the features of the tampers we do right now, we do have an option which is a smaller one for 58mm portafilters. This works with your Breville's, works with your Delacorte, works with machines that work smaller baskets. Then obviously we got the 58mm, 58.5. You know, one thing that we have developed as well during the process, early days anyway, of Pesado, was a tool to help you temp correctly. Because obviously, pretty much how the tamper works is this: you press the coffee down, but you gotta be able to press the coffee straight. The most important thing is pressing the coffee straight. And if you don't do that, then the coffee will channel. So I was chatting, this is back a long time ago, with a good friend that was competing in a coffee in good spirits. His name is Shay, and he's now running a company called Expat Roasters in Indonesia, in Bali. And back then, Shay was working in Australia, and he really wanted something that allows him to temp in competition and during service without paying too much attention, without having the stress of thinking, am I tamping straight or am I going on the side? You know what I mean? Like just diverting his focus, you know what I mean? So he asked me to develop something that would set depth and the level of the temp without having any other instruments, without having springs, without having any of that. And the reason why I've never been into springs too much. And the reason why I'm not into springs is because it's not consistent. Like it or not, the spring will slowly degrade, will fade, the push will be different, and the more it's like a shock absorber of the car. It's good for 100,000 kilometers, but after that, it's gonna fade, and it does fade along the way. So it'd be great when it's new, but then it changes. So it's not really a consistency tool, you know? So we developed something that is static. It doesn't move. This is called the depth adjuster. So the way the depth adjuster works, the depth adjuster runs into the inner thread that holds the base to the handle, and he obviously runs up and down, okay? So it slides on the thread that is in there, which is an M10 thread. Once you're reached your desired depth, you just need to lock it, okay? So what you do, you just lock it, tighten them into each other, and if you wanted to, you got a side screw to lock that as well. And this is set. So what happens here is every time you tamp, you're gonna be tamping to the same depth, to the same level. You're never tamping wobbly, and you know, once it's set in the morning, it's good, and you don't need to change it anymore for the day. So this was the depth adjuster. And after many years, we decided to develop an upgrade of the depth adjuster, which is working on the same principles of the depth adjuster, but it does have a spring. But this spring is not actually affecting your tamping, so it doesn't really matter if you get a degrade in the performance of the spring, because actually it's just to push the tamper back into the original position. So it is exactly the same system. The handle kind of travels up and down, and once you're happy with the depth, you can just lock it with a side screw there, and then you press it down, and then the spring just pushes the tamper back up. So, you know, we've changed also a little bit the shape of the handle to accommodate for better grip, you know what I mean? And yeah, this is our new edition. I developed this with the help of Anthony Douglas, which is World Barista Champion. And yeah, it's been a great influence into the development, and I'm really thankful to him for, you know, because he was keen on what we were doing, but he needed something, just something extra. And also it was a good idea to just refresh a little bit the look and the features of the depth adjuster. So we've gone down the line to make a new depth adjuster. Again, you know, all our tampers are made to the highest of standard. We take great care on delivering them to you without any possible mark or scratch. Right through the production line, we've gone through multiple amount of efforts to make sure that what you get is a pristine product, polished to perfection, laser etch, beautifully finished, because we think this is a special piece that we want to see going to a special place and being bought by a special customer. So thank you for supporting us, and see you in the next one. Take care.